Always use your own discernment when listening. These general readings are not a one-size-fits-all. Ultimately, you are the final say, so take what applies and leave the rest. With that being said, let's get started. Hi there, pal number one. Welcome or welcome back. Now, much of this feels like a continuance of one of my previous readings about a fish and a bird. And in that reading, I said that a fish can't live with the bird and the bird can't live with the fish because they're from two different worlds. And if they were to join each other's world, they couldn't live there without discomfort. So what I'm getting from this reading is that you had to place boundaries, and maybe you weren't sure why you needed to place these boundaries. You had to say no. You had to protect that inner child of yours. And I'm being directed to this one that says, no one lights a lamp, then covers it with a bowl or hides it under a bed. A lamp is placed on a stand where its light can be seen by all who enters the house. Your light and all of who you are is meant to be seen, and it's not anybody's place to dictate how you should be, what you believe, what actions you can take. If you're taking actions that are not in alignment with yourself, they will come back and haunt you in more ways than one. And so this is where you have to develop that armor of self-love around you and protect the soul that you are building within you. Because it's not about dimming your light to make others comfortable. It's about allowing your light to shine with who you are and those that enter into your energetic field. Now there's a strong notion here that you need to have patience during this time. Rome wasn't built in a day, and things need to rebuild, both for you and this other person. This person needs to know exactly who you are, and if they want to be in your life, they need to accept you. And if they can't accept that, then that's where you have to have the self-love to walk away. But sometimes when we shine, we trigger other people and they are just not ready to face their own inner shadows. And for many of you in this pile, you reflected back to them a shadow. And that's what caused this turbulent energy. And now they have to face this shadow without you. They have to do it alone. And by Spirit pulling you out of this situation, it's going to allow you to work on yourself. And even though it's hard, because I feel that there's a lot of love for this other person, and you really did have to accept them and their own boundaries. But I feel for this pile, you have already learned the lessons that this person is learning. So it is not your tower moment to walk into. It is not your storm to walk into. Your own personal storm is learning to love yourself enough to protect that inner child of yours and allow this other soul to face the shadow that they're avoiding, that you triggered in them. And it's going to take time. And I think this pile knows how long it takes to face a shadow. Sometimes, depending on how deeply ingrained these wounds are, it takes a long time before we hit that realization. And so that's why patience is needed in this pile. But your storm and this other person's storm is not the same. You're both going through your own storms right now. And this is why you have to stay busy and work on yourself. You're gathering the wisdom that you need on your path forward. Now this really does feel like, for most of you, this is a divinely guided connection. And so chances are there will be a reunion in the future. That may not be for all of you, but if you're pretty intuitive and you're still receiving downloads about this person, there's a reason to that. Some of you are going to be transmuting the energies behind the scenes, and some of you are going to be transmuting future energies so that when you two come into union, a lot of the healing has already been done. And some of the downloads are there just to protect you in case this other person decides to act more in a distorted energy. But regardless, the downloads are there for a reason. It doesn't mean that you have to act on them, but they play a purpose between you and this connection. And you have to find out what that purpose is if you're still receiving downloads about this connection. and the downloads may help you flow. It says here, helps you flow easily around obstacles. The information that you may get is to help guide you around turbulent energy. You may not see that now, but when divine timing starts to take place, you'll start to see how all the puzzle pieces fit. So it's more about gaining wisdom, transforming during the process, learning patience, and taking the foundation that you need to move forward in this life. This is a new beginning for you, so don't let the past hold you back. Allow things to unfold naturally as your higher self and spirit sees fit. I really do feel like you are meant to have a very strong connection with your soul, with your inner child, because it falls heavily in your blueprint, and so that part of you cannot be dimmed, because then you would not be stepping into your life purpose. And I think this is what this connection was trying to teach you, to protect that blueprint, the soul within, and knowing that things will work out in the end. So that is all I have for you, pile number 1. I hope this helped and resonated with you, and if it did, I'll catch you in the next reading. Bye. Always use your own discernment when listening. These general readings are not a one-size-fits-all. Ultimately, you are the final say, so take what applies and leave the rest. With that being said, let's get started. Hey there, pal number 2. Welcome or welcome back. So many of you are being pushed into a particular direction by spirit. And this direction is a little bit uncomfortable because there's things that you have to see here that feel very avoidant and resistant. They may be hard. You may feel like giving up. The path may feel very long to you. Whatever this resistance is, you're being asked to overcome it. These resistances are setting a foundation for you. There's healing happening going on, and it's going to require you to move through these energies one step at a time. It doesn't mean that it has to be fast. It just means it has to be productive. This is giving me slow and steady wins the race. And what you're doing now is you're setting a foundation for a much grander project later on down the road. It's going to allow yourself to do whatever this calling is well. Anytime that we learn something new, you're going to face the insecurities that you're not good enough to push through, especially if that's a core wound that you're working through that is going to come up with any new project that you start. And unfortunately, I think for this pile, you may have had a lot of experience in your life that you feel didn't go according to plan. And so now it's time for you to step into the energy of healing this core wound. And when you step into this, there's a huge resistance that you can't do it, even though your intuition is saying that you can. And these core wounds have to be looked at, because on your path, you're going to face this over and over again until it's cleared out of you. Someone that tells themselves that I can over and over again, every time they hit a brick road, are the ones that make it really far in life. They're the ones that make it to the Olympics. They're the ones that go through 7 years of schooling. They're the ones that get out of debt when it felt like they had 3 mortgages. And then the person that chooses to give up and not push through those insecurities, they remain stagnant. I know that it's painful. I know it's uncomfortable. But Spirit is saying here that you cannot give up on yourself. You cannot stop here. This is a transformative phase for you. And even if it's slow and steady, everything that you learn along the way will serve you well. Every mistake that you make along the way is going to be a tool to add in your toolkit. That doesn't mean you're going the wrong direction. It just means you're becoming wiser about what works and what doesn't. So no matter where you are starting, whether or not you're starting at rock bottom or halfway through, to keep going, keep pushing, keep healing, and know that everything that is on your path is meant to build you, shape you, and allow you to do whatever it is that you came here to do well. And Spirit is taking me to changes in career. It doesn't matter if you are in a low-paying job working fast food. You're learning how to work with people. It doesn't matter if you're at the bottom of your company because some of the best CEOs start from the bottom up. So embrace where you're at and allow life to shift you to learn these skills that you're going to need no matter where you are in life. My first true job that wasn't seasonal was working at McDonald's, and I learned a lot there because in my time there, I went from crew to manager. I learned what it was like to be a crew member, and when I became a manager, I learned what it was like to stand up for my fellow crew members. And then when I was done with that phase of my life, I took everything that I gained there with me. How to have empathy for people of all income levels, how to work with different people, because McDonald's tends to be an environment that's highly diverse. You're going to get people of all different races, all different backgrounds, all different beliefs, all different wages. And I've heard a lot of stories there from both the employees and the customers that I worked with. This is asking you to absorb the information no matter where you're at, but don't be afraid to improve on yourself, because when you're done with that place, it's on to the next to learn something new. And that's mostly what I'm seeing in this pile, is that it's a long process of building you up to what you came here to be, what you could achieve if you just put one foot in front of the other and keep climbing up and allow your soul to take you where you need to go, so that when you step into your creation side, you will have everything that you need to create what you came here to create. Now I'm hearing 10-year build, so that's going to resonate for some of you out there. And that doesn't mean that you are just now starting the 10-year build. You could be anywhere in this 10-year build process. So take that how it resonates. There's no doubt in my mind that this pile is here to do big things. I think one day you will be called to step up and lead. But first you need the skills on how to do that. So that is all I have for you, pile number 2. I hope this resonated with you, and if it did, I will catch you in the next video. Bye. Always use your own discernment when listening. These general readings are not a one-size-fits-all. Ultimately, you are the final say, so take what applies and leave the rest. With that being said, let's get started. Hi there, pile number 3. Welcome or welcome back. So I feel like you are dealing with a situation that had a direct impact on you in the past. And maybe in the past you had to walk away for healing to be done. The spiritual meaning of a bee that I looked up that resonated with this reading was new beginnings, hard work, and wisdom. So don't underestimate the wisdom that you're going to gain from this phase. This is not about walking away from your past, but I feel like your soul is guiding you to learn more about it. And that's going to happen through a divine connection that's going to mirror these back at you. And it's not about walking away, running away, but enduring through this process while learning how to set high boundaries for yourself. You have healed enough to be able to do this and navigate these energies that pained you so much from the past. And it does take a lot of internal strength, especially when a soul family comes in and mirrors these to you very heavily. There is a version of you that is being born out of the situation. And for many of you, it's going to require you to put your foot down and use your voice. So what Spirit is taking me to is 2 individuals. One has a distorted feminine energy and one has a distorted masculine energy. And this is an equal give and take soul connection where both of you are learning to endure parts of your past that are hard for you to look at. I feel like the person that's in their distorted feminine energy, where they're not using their voice, where they're not setting their boundaries, where they don't know their worth, and you're learning that. And for those of you that are in your distorted masculine, you're learning the wisdom behind your actions and how they affect other people, and how you can soften and shapen into a healthier energy, something that's going to serve both of you well, because it's going to allow you to work with different types of people, no matter their background. It's not about changing the other person. It's about doing the inner work within and knowing that if you let go of some of these insecurities, it wouldn't be so emotional. It wouldn't be so reactive. We have to let go of control. We have to let go of expectations. And if you embrace this connection for everything that it's going to teach you, you are going to learn so much. And this is about balancing the parts of you out so you can truly be confident in who you are becoming. This connection is fully teaching you how to love yourself, all parts of yourself, and truly seeing the behaviors of this other person and not looking at it from a wounded part of yourself, but encouraging you to see what is causing this other person to be in distorted energy and vice versa, getting the bigger picture and truly seeing that we really do have different paths. And just because somebody else is in opposite energy doesn't mean that they're wrong. They had to see something first. You had to see something first. And when you finally become balanced, both of you are going to see how each other helped you heal a side of you that you walked away from in the past. This is bringing your inner child out in the open, the parts of us that are still hurting, and learning how to speak, move, and endure with grace. So surrender to your soul and find out what you need to learn, find out what you need to do, and gain the wisdom that you need to move forward. And when you're done transforming and you see everything that you need to see, you'll be in a better place. You'll be given time to rest. This soul connection is uncomfortable because you are both showing each other your shadows. And anything that I've learned from my own path in the universe is when we have a phase that is extremely emotional, we're always given an opportunity to rest afterwards. But you have to see it first. So that is all I have for you, pile number 3. I hope this resonated with you. And if it did, I will catch you in the next video. Bye. Always use your own discernment when listening. These general readings are not a one-size-fits-all. Ultimately, you are the final say, so take what applies and leave the rest. With that being said, let's get started. Hi there, pile number 4. Welcome or welcome back. So what I'm getting for this pile is you or someone you love is going through a Kundalini awakening. Now, Spirit has been working with me on this particular pile for the past couple of days. And I've been doing research on this particular information that is showing up here in this pile. But it's going to require me to share a little bit of my meditative state and some of the downloads that I have been given over the past couple of years to kind of bring a bigger picture in perspective. Now, we are going to get biblical later in this reading. And so I want to put this out there now so that we're not breaking flow towards the reading itself. But my intentions are not to push Christianity on anyone, but just to give people a higher perspective from channeled text and what I have received about this particular text. Now, those of you that are on a Kundalini journey, this particular read is going to be more for the divine feminine version of a Kundalini awakening. From my understanding, there are 2 different types. There's the divine masculine and there's a divine feminine. And so if you are a divine masculine watching this, this is going to help you better understand the divine feminine's role. And if you are a divine feminine watching this, this is going to help you understand a little bit about your process. Because quite frankly, there's not a whole lot of resources talking about the divine feminine. And I feel like as I went through my own journey, many of the spiritual teachers that I followed that helped me through this process was giving me the divine masculine version of the Kundalini awakening. And that's not to say that their resources weren't helpful. A lot of them were tremendously helpful in navigating this process. But regardless, if you chose this pile, there's going to be some information here that you're going to have to take or leave what resonates for you. These are just my examples and experiences on my path that have all been placed together in a neat little puzzle after I've already went through it. Now, many of the spiritual teachers out there they talk about the Kundalini, and it's usually a process of working from the root chakra up. But in my experience, that wasn't the case. It was working from the crown chakra down. And here's the thing, when you're working from the crown chakra down, many of you are not going to have a balanced root chakra, sacral, or solar plexus chakra. So at the start of this process, you're going to be very ungrounded. Earlier this year, I met a dragon in my meditation. And somewhere on my journey, I don't remember where, I've read that the dragon is a part of the Ascended Master's journey. And there was a part of me that resonated with it, but I was not sure how that took place. Now, since I started my Kundalini process, every year I was clearing out a chakra, from my understanding. The first year, I was clearing out my crown chakra, second, my third eye, third, my throat, and so on. Now, when I was clearing out my crown chakra, that actually started before my Kundalini was active. It wasn't until the third eye, the second year, that I was actually activated. And so the second year of this process was more of when my journey started. The first year, I was just gathering intel and preparing for my journey without realizing it. When I made it to the fourth year, I met this dragon in my meditation, and I was told that this dragon was the fire energy of me, and that I needed to learn how to temper the energy. And this is around the time that I started working on my distorted masculine energy. When I got to a good place with my masculine energy and started to become balanced with it, I was told to visit my dragon again. And so I went into meditation and I met my dragon, and the dragon entered me through my heart chakra, and that was that. And when I asked what was the purpose of that, I was just told that we are stronger together, with no context or anything. And then my intuition took me to the Bible. So I'm going to switch my screen here and go over a little of what I have learned about me from this text. When I witnessed in heaven an event of great significance, I saw a woman clothed in sun, with the moon beneath her feet and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant, and she cried out because her labor pains and the agony of giving birth. Then my intuition took me to the Empress card and said the Empress is being born. So this entire passage is talking about the Kundalini awakening of the Divine Feminine and the pain that comes with healing the energies from crown chakra to root chakra. That would be the labor pains. Then I witnessed in heaven another significant event. I saw a large red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns, with 7 crowns on his head. And then my intuition said, the chakras. His tail swept away 1/3 of the stars in the sky, and he threw them down to earth. He stood in front of the woman as she was about to give birth, ready to devour her baby as soon as it was born. And in essence, this would be talking about the physical portion of you and the battles that we have to face when we're doing healing. She gave birth to a son who was to rule all nations with an iron rod. And back in those times, shepherds used iron rods to protect their cattle. And so what I was getting here was more of a form of protection. And her child was snatched away from the dragon and was caught up to God and to his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where God had prepared a place to care for her for 1,260 days. In my journey, I was solo for most of those 3 years. Anything that was going to hinder my healing path was removed out of my life. And when I stepped into my masculine energy was about 3.5 years, which correlates to this 1,260 days. And then there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon and his angels, and the dragons lost the battle, and he and his angels were forced out of heaven. The great dragon, the ancient serpent called the devil or Satan, the one deceiving the whole world, was thrown down to the earth with all his angels. And to think about this particular portion as everything that has caused suffering up until this point of the healing journey is going to be a battle between the soul and the mind. Then I heard a loud voice shouting across the heavens, "It has come at last, salvation and power and the kingdom of our God, and the authority of his Christ. For the accusers of our brothers and sisters," and this is a direct reflection, the accusers would be you yourself as well as your external environment, "has been thrown down to earth, and the ones who accuse them before our God day and night, and they have defeated him by the blood of the Lamb and by their testimony." Now, the Lamb, the symbology of the Lamb is innocence. And for me personally, I am correlating that directly to our natural state of being before we self-sacrifice, before we internalize from our environment, and those that have tried to change who we were at a soul level. And they did not love their lives so much, and they were afraid to die. And a lot of these people that project onto you, they're doing it out of their own fears, their own insecurities. But here's the thing, when we live in our own insecurities and we project onto others, we're afraid to acknowledge that part of ourselves, that identity that was created to cause that projection. "And you who live in the heavens rejoice, but terror will come on the earth and the sea, for the devil has come down to you in great anger, knowing that he has little time." When you go through a Kundalini awakening, a lot of the purging that you're going to do, a lot of the purging that is done, just happens. I find that a lot of my purgings are directly correlated to astrological events, divine events, and I personally see it as being directly connected to Gaia or the Earth's grid. But if you choose to see it from a religious stance, that's exactly what this biblical text is referring to. And when we go through these purges of the soul versus the mind, the identity that is dying off in you will grasp at everything, every single pain and reflection in our environment to stay alive. And it is incredibly painful to not only feel these feelings coming up that we have no control over, they just happen, and have your mind cling on to every little bit of it. And if you don't practice watching the mind, observing the mind, you can lose yourself in the process in more ways than one. And so it's really important that if you are going through a phase like this, your mind is grasping onto everything that is coming up. When the dragon realized that he had been thrown down to the earth, he pursued the woman who gave birth to the male child, but she was given 2 wings like those of the great eagle, so she could fly to the place prepared for her in the wilderness. There she would be cared for and protected from the dragon for the times, and half a time. And I saw a different biblical translation for this that actually said for time, times, and a half a time. It was actually translated to a year, 2 years, and a half a year, which is 3.5 years again. Then the dragon tried to drown the woman with the flood of waters that flowed from his mouth, but the earth helped her by opening its mouth and swallowing the river that gushed out from the mouth of the dragon. And in my personal opinion, this is more about connecting to the earth and getting grounded during this process. And the dragon was angry at the woman and declared war against the rest of her children, all who keeps God's commandments and maintain their testimony for Jesus. So this is more of all the insecurities coming up, all the inner child reflections, all the parts of us that we've abandoned along the way are going to come up one by one. And all who keep God's commandments and maintain their testimony for Jesus. Then the dragon took his stand on the shore beside the sea. And while I haven't completely connected the dots here for this last phase, my best guess has a lot to do with the Christ consciousness, the blood of Christ that flows within our veins. That's an essence of a Kundalini awakening. But if you look at other stories out there outside the Bible, such as the story of Shakti and Shiva, it has very similar views of what's portraying here, but it's just told in another format, in another story. Now I'm going to go ahead and come back to the cards here as many people don't know that the Rider-Waite Tarot is actually very biblical based. And you'll see here that the Empress has the 13 stars on the crown. Now, going back to my meditation with the dragon, I was told that the dragon was to make me stronger. And this is part of something that I knew intuitively for a long time about walking the line between darkness and light, the theory behind the yin and the yang. There's always a little darkness in the light, and there's always a little light in the darkness, and it's the cycle of life. But the truly intuitive person walks the line between their shadow and their light. So what I gathered from my meditation is the merging of my dragon was symbolic of me embracing my shadow side, walking with every part of myself that I've learned up until this point, and walking the path of the high priestess, the intuitive, the divine feminine, using everything that I gained from the sun, the light, and everything that I gained from the moon that was in the shadows to help me develop into exactly what my soul was calling me to do. Now, those of you that have chosen this pile, you're going to be coming from different backgrounds. Many of you have left Christianity. Many of you are going back to Christianity. Many of you are meant to be a uniter. So this is just going to be dependent on where you fall in your life purpose, and that every part of this journey is going to take you somewhere. There's a huge indication in these cards that your path is being cleared. And when you're on this path, you're going to be tapping into past lives. And many of you have a connection to a twin flame. Now, I know I have channeled things personally about twin flames that go against a lot of what I've seen in other videos. That's not going to be added into this video because I'm only going to reserve those for people that are actually in a physical twin flame connection. And to know that if you are on this path, you are going to see things in your own meditations that are going to be symbolic to you. You are going to see things from your past lives that are going to play a huge part in this life. You are going to find imprints of other lives that aren't exactly your life. They're just blueprints that you borrowed from somebody else's life that you're using in this life to help you navigate certain gifts. Now, I've gotten before at an intuitive level that those of you specifically that came here to change religion within, many of you are going to have biblical imprints, and they may show up as past lives. Think Mary Magdalene, Abraham, Moses, and others of you are going to have imprints of famous people in the past that had great mediumship abilities, great channeling abilities, and your soul chose to come here so that you can tap into those abilities. And many of you are going to have past lives that deal with segregation of religion, segregation of race, segregation of sex. And if you tap into a past life that has that, they are things that are meant to be healed and pushed through your awakening process, because you're going to need the strength from those past lives to do whatever it is that you came here to do. And those on this path, this Kundalini path, that a lot of my subscribers are going to be on, over time, you are going to see how every part of this life and previous lives play a part in your purpose, all of it, even before you realized this path was here. And I'm being taken to this card here. If you had faith, even as small as a mustard seed, you could say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it would move. This is what Spirit is bringing you up to be, to have so much confidence in yourself that when you step into your purpose, nothing can stop you. And this path does take years, but it's rewarding. And many people on this path are going to face their duality. And when it's time for you to face your duality, and it's going to be intense, you have to find a way to solve the problem, because we are moving towards unity consciousness. Please only take what resonates. This was mostly my journey and what I've discovered, and I know that this is going to add to many of yours. It doesn't mean you have to take all of it. Just take what you need from here and put the rest back. So that is all I have for you, pile number 4. I hope this resonated, and if it did, I will catch you in the next video. Bye. Always use your own discernment when listening. These general readings are not a one-size-fits-all. Ultimately, you are the final say, so take what applies and leave the rest. With that being said, let's get started. Hi there, pile number 5. Welcome or welcome back. So this is about revisiting your past and knowing how far you've grown, how grounded you are, and following your own intuition, regardless of what your mind is telling you to do. This is not about falling back into old patterns, but learning that people do change. And sometimes we come here with soul contracts to step away from someone that disempowered us, learn to stand on our own 2 feet and heal and recover, then step back to this person that disempowered us, taking everything that we've learned with us, and coming full closure with a cycle of forgiveness and higher perspective of what's actually happening with the other person, and to walk into this energy with unconditional love, with unconditional understanding, and helping this other person see the light at the end of the tunnel. Sometimes we can't truly call ourselves a light worker or a healer if our intuition calls for us to go help someone, and we don't. Now I'm being brought back to my past where I had to walk into uncharted waters because my intuition told me to. And before I walked into uncharted waters, I was told that this particular soul has been replaced with a walk-in, and that the soul that is in this human has a much higher level soul to help fulfill the contract of you coming back together with this soul. One that can handle the difficult energies that are coming up. It doesn't mean that the soul won't lash out in a particular way, because in this other individual, it is mind versus soul there too. But me being in a state of unconditional love and unconditional understanding for this person allowed the situation to not escalate and allowed healing for both sides. Not only was I impressed by my ability to walk into the situation and handle it with the composure that I did, but I was incredibly impressed with the other person's ability to surrender. And the entire time that I was communicating with this person, I could see where this person was trapped by the mind. But the distance between us had taught this person a lot of what they valued, what they missed, and how much they missed, and that they were still given a second chance. It doesn't mean that this individual is going to be perfect, because quite frankly, nobody in this world is perfect. But it's about knowing who you are, facing your fears, knowing that you're strong enough to follow your own intuition, and learning that you are at the part of your journey where you have to go by faith and not sight. And that's a hard part of the journey. But I'm not telling you what's right and what's wrong here, because ultimately it's going to be up to you on how far you can follow your intuition and really use this as a guide on some other timelines that could be resonant with you and not what the mind would like to portray, which is usually the worst case scenario. But what I see here is a new relationship forming, and there's a possibility that in this forming relationship, it could show that runner chaser energy, but I see spirit guiding 2 people together, and that I think that what you learn from this connection with your new self in your new state of being is going to play a huge part in your path going forward. So that is all I have for you, pile number 5. I hope this resonated with you, and if it did, I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.